It's Monday, the 30th of May, 2022. Welcome to the Fast Five by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Amyler.
Good morning, Michael.
All right, Sean, we've got 5 stories to get through in 5 minutes, and there are some cracking stories today. Story number 1 is it is just a massive week for the economy. Official economic growth figures due for release on Wednesday, and then a surge on Wall Street is likely to help the local market today.
Yes, let's start with the economic growth data. After some pretty disappointing lead-up figures, growth's likely to come in around 0.5% for the quarter, taking annual growth to about 2.8%. That's according to the Commonwealth Bank. ANZ's at a little bit higher than that. Now, this feeds in to what financial markets and investors are going to do in the next few weeks. The big global fear is that we're heading into a period of high inflation, which means higher interest rates and slowing economies. Australia doesn't want to be in that basket. Investors want to see an expanding economy. It wants growth to show some wage uplift, but it doesn't want to see out of control prices. Now, there were some good figures out of the US over the weekend where consumer spending was up, but inflation not quite as sharp as expected. That's the sort of information investors want to see. Now, on Wall Street, that sent the bourse up significantly. The tech-heavy Nasdaq jumped more than 3%. The broad-based S&P 500 was 2.5% higher, thanks to 3 good sessions in a row. Wall Street had its best week last week since November 2020. The local market is likely to follow this morning.
All right, on to story number 2, Sean, and we're only a week really now into the new government, and there is plenty happening. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese yesterday said that he's committed to delivering the legislated 3-stage tax cuts despite the growing government debt. He said his next trip's going to be to Indonesia following last week's Quad meeting. And he says his government's policies will put downward pressure on energy prices, which is a pretty touchy subject at the moment.
Sure is. He also said that the response to the government's new policies in the Pacific have been very positive. Of course, it's a critical week, this one, because a Chinese foreign minister is in the region. New Finance Minister Katie Gallagher yesterday said it was time for fiscal discipline and the fuel excise cut won't be extended beyond the current 6 months time frame. On the other side of politics, David Littleproud has joined Darren Chester to take on Barnaby Joyce as national leaders today in the party room. We also might get an indication today of whether Labor, who already has 75 seats, will get the 76th seat needed for an absolute majority. Over the weekend, the Greens picked up a 4th seat in the House of Reps.
All right, on to story number 3. And there are media reports around this morning, Sean, that the board of AGL Energy is having second thoughts now about voting on splitting the business into 2 on June 15. We've talked about this a bit. Billionaire Mike Cannon-Brookes owns 11% of the group. He's against it. Super fund Hester is also against it. They argue that the split shifts the carbon reduction challenge that's currently facing the company rather than actually addressing it.
Yes, it looks like the vote, which needs 75% approval to split AGL Energy into 2, one would house the carbon-intensive businesses, the other one, the retail business. That vote's going to be a very close-run thing. Expect something from AGL Energy this morning, and it wouldn't be a surprise if they delay that vote.
Okay, story number 4, Sean. Builders are doing it tough, and there's a pretty nervous time for homeowners that are waiting on houses to be built. A Queensland group collapsed on Friday. What's the latest?
Yes, well, the challenge for the sector is that builders have entered into fixed price contracts over the past year or more, and since then the prices of goods, timber, windows, staff, etc. have shot up, makes it very difficult to survive. On Friday, Surfers Paradise-based home builder Pivotal Homes went into voluntary liquidation. The biggest builder in the country, Metricon, it was in the news over the weekend. Its acting chief executive, Peter Langfelder, met with New South Wales' building commissioner and said he wanted to meet with Victorian authorities as well. Metricon itself says it hasn't any financial problems, though it did need to strike a deal with its own lender, Commonwealth Bank, on Friday night to double its working capital facility. Construction, such an important sector of the economy. It employs hundreds of thousands of people, including many tradies, of course. It's got a big effect on the rest of the economy. Someone builds a house, they need to fill it with new stuff.
All right, story number 5, Sean, and we've saved kind of 2 cracking stories for last, and we're bundling them together into one. A new study says that Buckingham Palace, if it was put on the market today, would sell for about $2.3 billion. That's 1.3 billion pounds.
Absolute bargain for a 775-room London residence, Michael. Absolute bargain.
Yep.
The report from retirement property group McCarthy Stone put the UK's royal property portfolio, that's everything, the castles, the lodges, a whole lot, at about £3.7 billion, which I think is about 6 billion Aussie dollars. The second part of this story is really only because it occurred in Britain. It's got nothing to do with the royals. There are reports that Prime Minister Boris Johnson will reintroduce imperial measurements to try and attract UK voters in Conservative seats. British shops will be allowed, but not required, to sell products in pounds and ounces. Makes no sense to me, Michael, but I'm not British.
It doesn't make much sense to me either. There we go, the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It's Monday, the 30th of May, 2022. Remember to hit follow on the podcast, and if 5 minutes isn't enough for you, you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed on your podcast platform. We've got plenty of interesting interviews and things, such as a look today at the outlook for the tech sector. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.